Chris Barnett's fighting, baby. This card, sexy.
It is sexy.
Sexy. Usman Covington 2. Rose Whaley 2. Gaethje
Billy
Chandler.
Quarantillo. Ozzy Osbourne.
No. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. I'm your host, Gordo Gable, joined by this beauty man here, Kirode, and we're back for another awesome, and I mean awesome, electric UFC pay-per-view card, UFC 268, Madison Square Garden. Some insane fights. It cannot get any better than this. Welcome back. Missed you, buddy. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I mean, this is obviously a very exciting week for UFC. Last weekend was a great card, but this weekend is even better, and we are hyped for it.
Let's not waste any more time. We have a lot to get through, so let's get it started right away. I don't know if I can start this off without talking about the main event. I think the main event is going to be a fight I'm like 100% owned in. For one big reason is last time these guys fought each other, Kamaru Usman put up 130 points, and you're saying, okay, I'm gonna go out there and do it again. Well, it's not like Colby Covington didn't do the same thing himself. Colby Covington went out there and put up 57 points in a loss. Their output, their pace is on another level. And the best part about this fight is we have someone in Colby Covington sitting at a price tag of 6.9K. Nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy that he has such a low price tag considering he went 4.5 rounds, had good output, and put up 57 points even in a loss. I mean, you could say that Usman was going to win that fight and you think Usman's going to win again, but Covington was pretty close to being able to win that fight last time around. A lot of people said it was 2-2 going into that 5th round. If that last round goes the other way, Colby Covington could have won that fight. And I mean, that's a good sign for a fighter at $6,900. They have the ability to maybe get a win in this fight, which you don't often say for people that are this low in the price range.
Yeah, and he was able to put up that big score without even targeting a single takedown, which was his major thing to do in the UFC, right? So we don't know how he's going to target this one. All we know is it's going to be an electric fight, super high pace, lots of output, and at 6,900 is someone you're really going to like. But we cannot discredit Usman. I think that if you do not want to pay down at Covington, you're going to have one of the other two in the fights. Kamaru Usman is an absolute killer. We know how good he is. We know he is up there in the best in the history of the division. And he's going to put out a good score as well. The only reason we're liking Covington is that price tag. It's hard to get value on a fight card like this. We saw it last week. Only 2 underdogs won in the entire thing, so really like it. This fight's even stackable too. Main event, 5 rounds of output.
Yeah.
Book it, baby. It'll be a good one.
Yeah, I mean, Usman is the top-ranked pound-for-pound fighter in the world right now, so hard to discredit him too.
Moving right along to another fight we just have to target. We have the UFC debut of Alex Pereira facing Mr. Michailidis there. Alex Pereira, price tag of 9.1K. Michailidis at a price tag of 7.1K. Tell us why we want to target this one.
Yeah, Alex Pereira coming in with an incredible 9.1K in his first ever fight in the UFC, but we know exactly why. I mean, this guy is a very, very good kickboxer, world class. One of the only people in the world who have ever beaten Israel Adesanya in a fight, knocked him out, and he's expected to do the same to Michailidis in this fight. I mean, that's why Michailidis is down there at $7,100. But on the other hand, Pereira, no ground game at all. He's coming from kickboxing. They don't do a lot of that in kickboxing, whereas Michailidis could definitely get that finish on the ground. So, I mean, you got on one side a world-class kickboxer against a guy with no chin, and on the other side, a guy with no ground game against a guy who is known for that ground game. So, I mean, this fight is going to finish one way or the other, whichever side you want. If you need a lower salary guy, Michailidis, we kind of like him as an underdog here, but at the same time, we think that Pereira is going to have good output and is expected to win this fight. So we really want to target this fight as a whole.
Very, very, very binary fight, all right? Ground game, Michailidis, kickboxing, Pereira. Choose what side you want to be on. I mean, if you are going to take Michailidis, it'll be a punt play because he could go out there and get starched within 10 seconds.
Yeah.
We know he's been knocked out in almost all of his losses. But at the same time, we know that Pereira, in his 4 MMA fights he has had, he's been taken down. He was submitted in the first one. And Michailidis is no joke on the ground. So whenever you want to target one, make sure to get one of those guys in your lineup. One last fight we're going to talk about before we get into our core plays. But another fight that we just have to target, we have to talk about, is going to be one of my favorite fights. I've been looking forward to this one for a while. Justin Gaethje, Michael Chandler. Whew!
Yeah.
This is a good fight.
Oh, yeah. On
one side, you have Michael Chandler sitting there at a price tag of 7.3K. We know how dynamic he is in that first round. We know how, you just asked Dan Hooker how he is. But at the same time, we don't know his cardio. We do not know where his chin stands. I mean, Oliveira's not known for his knockouts, even though it was a perfectly placed punch. Chandler did go down.
Yeah.
Then you have a guy in Gaethje. Pressure. Wrestling. I mean, this guy was said there was going to beat Khabib with his wrestling, right? No. Amazing chin. Amazing durability. Great combinations. Love this guy as a fighter. So you have this dynamic round 1, round 2 fighter versus this durability long distance one. Do we think that Michael Chandler is going to be able to put out Gaethje in those first rounds?
Yeah, that's the question, isn't it? I mean, if he can, then he's going to be worth it. If he can't, then Gaethje probably wins in the long run. Once it gets to that third round, we haven't seen Chandler a lot there, so obviously we think Gaethje is going to have the advantage later on, the later that it gets.
I don't see Chandler submitting Gaethje. I mean, we know that Chandler's legit on the ground, but it's not like Gaethje's any joke himself.
Yeah.
If I'd make a prediction on this fight, I'm going to say that Gaethje's going to knock him out in round 3. I think that he's the more durable guy. He's going to eat at Chandler's gas tank. He's going to wear him down, and I think he wins this fight. So I'll be having a lot of Gaethje, but I will also have a lot of Michael Chandler this week. All right, those are 3 fights we want to target. Now moving on to getting a little bit more specific. Who are we liking? Underdogs, core plays. Let's get her going. Our favorite underdog of the week is going to be Edmund Shabazian, sitting at a price tag of 7.7K. Tell us a bit more about him.
Yeah, we know Shabazian was a big hype train in this division beforehand, and then he got fed to Hermanson, Brunson, guys that took him down, absolutely neutralized him. But now he's getting that matchup that he wants. I mean, this guy has great kickboxing, and now he's fighting another stand-up fighter who is favored in Imavov at $8,500, but Shabazian there at $7,700, we think there's definitely value because we think he can win this fight on the feet. I mean, Imavov is not as good as the past 2 guys that he's fought. It's a bit of a step down in competition. And Shabazian, I mean, what was that, 3 KOs in a row? He put up over 100 points in 3 fights in a row. Didn't do well in the last 2, but this is another guy that he has a good matchup against. And we think you definitely take the underdog in this fight because he has the ability to get that finish, get that KO, put up a big number of points.
We saw Imavov have very questionable fight IQ against Phil Hayes. I will admit, though, I wasn't very high on Shabazian's last time out, but this is a spot where I really like him. He's getting that step down in competition, in my opinion. I haven't really seen Imavov prove himself that much to me, and this is a spot where maybe he does. But until he does, Shabazian, very, very credible guy, and I'm going to give him all that credit he deserves. I think he goes out there, puts on a kickboxing clinic, and as long as he stays on the feet, this is his fight all day. So I'm going to take Shabazian, 7.7K. Great underdog look this week.
All right, moving on to somebody who is on the higher end of the price range. Who's our first core play up at the top?
I'm liking Ade Osborne over here. He's facing a guy in CG Vergara, fresh off Dana White Contender Series. He did go out there with a big underdog price tag and start his opponent in the first round, but I'm not very high on the guy. Bet against him in the Contender Series, and he's getting a massive step up in Ade Osborne here. A guy who is just dynamic, great on the ground, very good on the feet, and he got a bit unfortunate with last time out with Manel Kape, who flying knee, great knockout, but CJ Vergara is not Manel Kape. There's a huge discrepancy there, and I think that even if Ozzy Osbourne wanted to go to the ground, I said Ozzy Osbourne. If Ode Osborne wanted to go to the ground, he also has that huge advantage, in my opinion, there. So not only do you have this massive skill gap, in my opinion, but you also have a guy in Ode Osborne whose fights have not left the first round in 8 of his 9 last fights.
Yeah.
This guy is a finisher, and he goes out there and he scores very, very, very well. So you put all that together, great talent on the feet, on the ground, huge skill disparity, step down in competition, and a first round finisher, liking him on DraftKings this week. If you wanted a safer option, however, someone who is around the same price tag, who I think has a higher floor, just because we do know that Ozzy Osbourne hasn't finished. I said it again!
Yeah, you did say Ozzy Osbourne.
We do know that Osbourne has been finished in 2 of his losses.
Yeah.
It's going to be Bobby Green, sitting at a price tag of 8.6K. Tell us a bit about him.
Yeah, I mean, we know what the deal is with Bobby Green. Just incredible output, good durability. This guy is going to be beating Iaquinta down. And Iaquinta, I mean, the guy hasn't fought in a couple of years, so it's hard to know exactly what he's going to look like. Obviously, we know how good he is and how good he's been in his career, fighting for belts, all that kind of stuff. But Bobby Green, we just saw him come off of a loss where he put up 57 points. I mean, that kind of output is kind of incredible. And that was in a 3-round fight. So it's hard to imagine putting up that many points in a loss. So the guy's output is just going to outpace Iaquinta, we think, this week. And we like him a lot here at that $8,600. Iaquinta, obviously a relatively big underdog, but we think definitely for good reason. And we think that output means that if he gets this win, he could put up a lot of points doing it.
A fight that's really flying under the radar this week is going to be an absolute rager, by the way. Shane Burgos against Billy Quarantillo. Two guys with just insane output. This fight is going to score big. It's going to score high. These guys do not let up. The volume will be off the charts. I think Burgos is the better fighter, better level of competition, better boxing, better on the feet, better timing. The problem I have is he's coming off a nasty knockout. One that I can't get out of my mind, right? Yeah. He was hit and his brain took like 3 seconds to process it, and then he went down. And it was one of the scariest knockouts I've ever seen. However, he is coming back a bit quickly. I do think he is better than Billy Q in this spot. Billy Q is a guy who's just 3 rounds of pure endurance, adrenaline, 3 rounds of just beating his opponents down, right? Lots of output. He does probably have the ground advantage. I just don't think his wrestling is that good to take down Burgos. But there's gonna be another fight I want to target. I do really like Shane Burgos at the top, just because he has that output, he has that boxing. I do think he's a lot better fighter than Billy Q, so I'm liking him up top as well. That's another fight you want to target. I know we've been talking about this a lot in fights we do want to target, but it's a pay-per-view card. This is a really big fight. How are we looking at the Rose versus Wei Li fight this week?
Yeah, I mean, this fight is going to be an absolutely crazy one. This was an incredible fight to watch last time. Rose getting that crazy knockout. That was a very good fight night, and they're fighting here again on another very good one. Obviously, the price tags are very close together in the middle at $8,200 and $8,000, which is kind of crazy given that Wei Li was such a big favorite coming into the last fight, and now Rose is the slight favorite there. That's a little bit weird considering that Rose got her knockout by kind of a bit of a flash knockout. I mean, if she didn't land that kick perfectly, that fight was going to keep going on, and who knows what could have happened. So obviously we think both these women are incredible fighters. But if we're going to go with one side here, we think we might lean a little bit towards Wei Li, even though we love Rose around here. I mean, Wei Li was a huge favorite before, got flash knockout, now she's coming in as a slight underdog, and her fight camp with Fight Ready, she's been focusing a lot on her ground game, and Rose isn't exactly known for that, which means that Wei Li could maybe go for a few more takedowns than she did last time in this fight, get some more control time. We think that you should be on one side of this fight because these fighters both have incredible output and are both great fighters, but we lean a little bit towards Wei Li this week.
Pains me to say it because I do love Thug Rose, but Fight Ready Zhang Wei Li does scare me. I think that it's crazy that you have a fighter who goes from what I think she was $8,900 last time out to now being a slight underdog. Credit to Rose, she did exactly what she had to do, but it's so many things are done differently. I just think that it's gonna be a really, really close fight, and it hurts me to say it, but I will be picking Zhang Wei Li to win the fight. All right, that's going to do it for us in terms of core plays, but I cannot leave without talking about some high-end targets. Ian Gary up top, the man's an absolute stud. I think he goes out there and absolutely crushes Williams. We've seen him lose recently to people like Mikey Gall, who are nowhere near to the level I think Ian Gary is. I think Ian Gary shows why he's undefeated, makes his name known, and he's a very good pay-up option. I also do think that the Hayes versus Curtis fight would be an absolute banger, but if you are going to pay up that much, I'd get Gary or I'd get Usman up top. So that's gonna do it for us. I appreciate you guys for sticking along with us. There's a lot of money to be made, so make sure you're checking out the live stream on Friday night with me and Liam Picks Fights. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel, hit the like button down below, and make sure you're following us on Twitter as well. I'll be posting my bets Saturday morning as well. So thank you guys very much, and let's make some money. Ding!